think this is a little bit better. Maybe. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're just going to go forward. Okay. All right. We're getting a nod here from our producer. So, okay. Well, thanks so much for being with us tonight, guys. Okay. What we're talking about here this evening is a super important topic that spans everyone, because we know that one of the major themes that we have here at Ivy League Psychic Academy is that mediumship is not a gift. Psychic ability is not a gift. Neither is empathic ability. What that means is that spanning throughout our lives, we go through many different phases of development, and they're involuntary. You know, this isn't something a 3-year-old doesn't go into psychic class and say, I want to do this. Where's my crystal ball? And then there it is. You know, they go through, spend $10,000 and they go through 15 years of training, and there it is, right? It just happens naturally. So what we want to break down today is how exactly that development starts at about 3 years old, and what it looks like in the progression throughout life into adulthood. So the topic of the show tonight is my 3-year-old sees dead people, because this is what parents are typically coming to us with. Mm-hmm. Why is it that the baby seemed to be fairly normal? We weren't seeing any problems. The child was sleeping. The child seemed to be looking at us, looking at things that were actually there in the room, and all of a sudden started to communicate with these invisible creatures. Or they started to have fear issues, sleep disturbances at night, all kinds of different things start to happen. So we want to help all the parents out there, all the educators out there, and for all the grown-ups out there who suffered with this and nobody did come to your rescue. Maybe it's never been explained to you what was going on. So let's start breaking this down. Exactly why it is that 3-year-olds start to see and hear dead people, okay? There is a brainwave that starts to work at the bottom base of the head, up at the top of the neck, that starts to develop when a child is 3 years old, that actually makes them see the deceased and other spirits. Mm-hmm. They can see them with their physical eyes, and they can hear them literally with their ears. So when a 3-year-old is interacting with his spirit, it's not the same as like you and I, Tree, right? Mm-hmm. When we're seeing it in our head. Right. We're hearing it in our mind. We're hearing it a different way. A 3-year-old is seeing it almost like an imaginary friend, unless, of course, it isn't, and then it is terrifying.
Absolutely.
So you would see that too. But when a loved one in the family dies around that age, they continue to communicate with them as though they're actually there. And this is where most parents start to get blown away. Yeah. Not only that, when there are other loved ones who passed even before the child was born, you'll see that they're communicating with family members on the other side that they never met, and they can point to pictures and say their names, and they start to develop these relationships with these spirits on the other side. And the family's puzzled. Why wasn't this here before? Is this going to last forever? Is my child different? What does this mean? Mm-hmm. You know, now, did you have any of this growing up?
I did, which is funny. And I actually was just, helping somebody the other day with this same type of thing. When I was younger, I actually used to see faces, but it didn't seem to be like a whole apparition. It would just be kind of like a face over in the corner, almost like a floating head in weird ways. And then other times it would just be shadows. I've always seen shadows since young childhood and seeing things move. But yeah, what I actually suggest to people now, because of my own experience, is that when they start talking about, him or her, they just point, they wave, they smile, whatever the reaction is. Sometimes they cry. Mm-hmm. I would tell them, start showing them or give them a photo album or a scrapbook, something to say, this is your great-great-grandpa so-and-so, this is your grandma, this is uncle so-and-so. And this way it kind of helps to give the kid, like, they know who they're talking to or what they're looking at, to know that it's safe, that it's okay. And a lot of times they feel that energy too. is too.
Oh,
That they give a
absolutely.
lot of loving energy.
Right. Well, and then, when there are parents who ask the question of, my child seems afraid, but I think this is my father coming through.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is my grandmother coming through. Is there something wrong? Why is this happening? Because it's startling. I'm sure great-grandma is not coming through torturing the child. I'm sure it's just not something that they're used to seeing yet.
Right.
It's going to take some time to adjust. We also have to be realistic that the way a person's personality was when they were here on Earth doesn't change when they pass away. So if grandma was overbearing and kind of scary, guess what?
Guess what's happening?
You may remember her as a saint now, but your 3-year-old is going to get the raw deal of how she actually was. So it's just a transfer of energy.
I think, too, is a lot of people will, like you said, kind of freak out and be like, oh, what's going on? What's wrong? Sometimes they're just saying hi.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're just visiting the child. Like, they knew or they heard that they were going to have a grandchild. Well, they come and they visit. Right. I have seen this happen a few times with a couple kids that I know where the grandparent will come and visit and they wave. And it's like, what are you waving at? Oh, grandpa's here.
Right.
Or grandma's here.
So, with this, we've also have some other cycles in the brain going on with these brain waves that affect everyone, not just the 3-year-olds, but it really does begin right around that time. So we have something else called the ultradian cycle that I want to look at really quick. Now, this has been classically thought of as a situation that people with either severe bipolar disorder, manic depression, or schizophrenia. Mm-hmm. This was always considered something that they were dealing with, that they were suffering with. What we know now, that there are some more studies being done on mediums, is that the ultradian cycle, where the brain is shifting over into certain brain waves or over to the right side of the brain, it holds for about 20 minutes, and this happens every hour and a half. And during this time, you receive all kinds of intuitive information. You can see spirits, you can receive messages more easily, your psychic abilities will increase. You could also have a lot of the side effects that come with being in that cycle, like a heavier breathing, slowed down, calm system, almost like a meditative state of mind, some trouble, I said that already, but the trouble with the nasal passages, the lungs, the way that all of this goes is a little bit different. Now, when people are doing this and they're asleep, obviously they're more open to it. So what happens during that cycle for that 20 minutes is they receive a ton of intuitive information. You would say during that time, they're probably having visit dreams from spirit loved ones, but they're also having vision dreams, premonition dreams. When we're awake, like most people, we push it away a little bit more. So our refusal can limit how much information we get. But most people think it's nap time. They think their body's just changing a little bit, and they start to have a lot of random insight. Right. Okay, into their lives, and they may chalk it up to deja vus or whatever. But this is something that really kicks in around that age, and it's not just connected to people diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. This is something everyone now, we're learning, is going through, but mediums do seem to have this a lot more. Okay, now we also, as we're looking more at going into 5 and 6 years old, what we see with kids is that the right side of the brain starts to develop more. So the left logical side of their brain is staying the same. The right side of the brain is developing, which is the intuitive, the artistic. Okay, so you may see them with an imaginary friend if they didn't already have one, talking more with spirits, things like this. They are focusing, however, when they're communicating with the spirits. At 5 or 6 years old, it stops being literally with their eyes and literally with their ears, and it goes up into their head.
Yep, the switch.
They switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember going through this?
No.
I know,
I'm trying
right?
to figure out exactly what point I even
I don't think we've done that yet.
Really, I don't know. I know, right? Because most of the time, yes, and this is going to sound funny to say, but it is in our head that it happens. But there will be once in a while that we will get the disembodied voice,
Mm-hmm.
or we will see a shadow, get the shadow people, as I call them, or, like the floating head once in a great while. A lot of it happens more in our sleep state, I think.
Right.
But yeah, I really do wonder. I was actually just wondering that when exactly does it flip from being physically in front of us or physically like in our ears to the clairaudient and clairsentient,
coming through. Mm-hmm. And this is how people get diagnosed with things like schizophrenia,
absolutely,
manic depression. I mean, multiple personalities, all this is saying you're hearing things, you're seeing things. Well, they're there. Mm-hmm. Everyone else has just shifted over to the, with this right side brain development. And for all the other 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, it went up into, their mind's eye.
And I think too, this thought actually just crossed my brain, which I'll have to actually maybe do a little research on this. But I'm actually kind of wondering though, because back in the day when you had some things, even if you had a head cold and took too many Tylenol, they checked you in someplace.
Right.
So I actually kind of really wonder how much of it really comes down to the own person's personal or inner strength to dealing with such things, because you do have some, not that I'm calling other people weak, but what I'm saying is that some people can only handle so much at a time before they break. Mm-hmm. Some people have a much shorter breaking point where other people can really get pushed and pushed and pushed.
Talk about overstimulation.
Absolutely.
It really is too much.
Yeah. So it really just kind of makes me wonder, those people that are being diagnosed with things like schizophrenia and so forth, right. A lot of it is disorder going on, but there's still communication happening here.
Well, and let's get into this part of it. Okay, the environmental factors. Let's talk about hereditary and environmental factors. So what exactly is going on with a, let's say, gifted, okay. A gifted child who continues to maybe see with their eyes, hear with their ears, or even if it is up in their mind's eye and in their head, they can hear the spirits, they can accurately predict things, communicate in a state of mediumship. So what's really happening with that the majority of the time is that it gets cut off because environmental, all right, school, you have your teachers, you have your churches, you have your parents, you have everyone saying it's going to wind you up in the loony bin, you're going to end up on, pills, there's something wrong, immediately. I mean, it only takes a couple funny looks for a child to really quickly figure out that maybe they shouldn't say that anymore. Among other children, it may be discussed, but that even kids are pretty susceptible, pretty moldable to picking up on.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
Prejudice, Well, that just
exactly.
real quick, you get shunned by a couple kids talking about it, and the next thing you know, you don't have anywhere else to talk about it, so they start shutting it down, blocking it out. The other ones, like us, who don't care, even in Catholic school atmosphere, see if I care. I just kept, going on, and hey, we all love Jesus. You're not the only one who gets to talk to Jesus. I was pretty out there with it, so I fed it.
Right.
I fed it. And because of the environment that I was in, where mediumship was recognized in my family, where psychic ability was acknowledged, we had relocated from Georgia outside of Lilydale, the spiritualist community. Mm-hmm. Yes, I went to Catholic school, so I was told to keep my mouth shut in there, but it was fed. So environmentally, it was fed. It was also fed by heredity.
Yeah.
So we know, right, scientifically, that things like empathic ability, increased psychic ability, all of this is passed down.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It gets difficult, I think, and gets tricky when it's either highly discussed and so forth. You're shown things growing up to the point where it's not. And I'll say, in my case, I always knew I wasn't the normal kid in Catholic school. Sit there, look at the nuns like, how do you really know? And questioned everything.
Right.
But in my family, it was never talked about until I became of a certain age and I started showing more interest in things. And then it was my mother saying, oh, I wonder when this was going to come up.
Okay.
So, it definitely comes down to.
And isn't it nice to have that patient, waiting, environment to go to just even have one other person.
Just one.
That can support.
It is a big help.
It makes a world of difference. Mm-hmm. We need to be there for the kids.
For the kids.
We have to be able
to know that this is
to say to them,
not bad.
No, and it's okay. It's normal. It's healthy. And also that, it has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
If kids were taught that being able to communicate with the deceased, having intuitive feelings of their own, having empathic feelings where they can feel someone else's pain, that all of this is for healing purposes.
Mm-hmm.
It's all for preventative purposes. There's some value in it. We would eliminate very quickly the fear element, which is going to shut it down, or even worse. And this is the one thing I want teachers, parents to understand. If you start to create fear, stigma, that child is not necessarily going to lose that ability. That's not how it works.
Oh, right.
But they could, because of your stigma and prejudice, develop all kinds of weird disorders that are not going to work with their system and hide it. And it does tend to lead to paranormal problems, depression, drug and alcohol abuse, a slew of other factors. But let's get into some of the physical things that we see going on with this ability. And then I want to talk about some of the solutions you guys can give to the kids while they're dealing with this. Okay, so what we know is that kids, including, adult onset, I want to say, versions of these same disorders, what we tend to see in kids that are experiencing this to a heightened degree is ADHD,
mm-hmm.
ADD, depressive disorders, including bipolar. It does go into schizophrenia. We see general aches and pains, complaints. In adults, it's fibromyalgia. In kids, it tends to be like phantom illnesses, or what do you call that?
Growing pains and
hypochondria.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, they're always sick. They're always sick. They're always sick. And sometimes they are literally picking up, on their environment. But also sleeplessness, sleep disorders, just all kinds of things, migraines, general, headaches,
mm-hmm.
and a lack of ability to calm oneself down emotionally, which can lead to a whole slew of physical problems. Emotionally, they're a train wreck. They're like pent-up chihuahuas.
Yeah.
And if they're in an environment, right, where there are too many people, there's aggression, anything, there's a lot of stress, they're just going to kind of lose it. And they can really have meltdowns with any more than 2 to 3 people being around them a lot of the time.
Oh, absolutely. All it really takes is just one other child or one adult that is actually going through a heightened moment at that time. It doesn't even have to be depression. It doesn't even have to be a large situation. It could just be like the smallest increase in energy level. And if that child is feeling it and sensitive to it, oh my gosh, it throws off their entire day.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple of the things that the kids can do, that you can do for the kids, is to give them empowering solutions to dealing with the spirits that they are seeing. They need to be acknowledged. When they say something's going on, that's what's going on. Even if it's not completely accurate or it sounds nutty to you, it's enough. It's enough that they're seeing something and that they don't care for it. Or maybe that they do really enjoy it. Good, then feed that, encourage that. That's their strength. But if they need to feel a little bit more safe about what's happening, you could use wands. Wands can be an expensive solution, but literally sticks with a crystal.
Yep, absolutely. You can make it yourself with some hot glue or super glue
bad wand.
String. Yep. 100% there.
You can make them a wand. They can feel incredibly empowered by that. Give them feathers, give them crystals, stones, angel statues around the room, pictures, photographs of loved ones that make them feel safe.
Yeah.
What did you do to feel safer as a kid?
Hid under my blanket. No.
Yeah, I know, right? Like there were no solutions.
Well, you know what because again, it's no disrespect towards my family, but this wasn't talked about. So for me, I was one of those kids who really just kind of dove in and did my own thing, figured my own thing out. But one thing that I actually did that I would get yelled at for was I got a bottle spray bottle with water in it because I figured.
I thought those were just for cats.
No, not at all. This helps too.
Ghost spray.
It's ghost spray.
It is ghost spray.
Because I grew up in a very Catholic home, and because our home was blessed,
Holy water.
I assumed that the water coming out of the faucet was blessed too, and it was holy water.
I love it.
So I filled the bottle with some water, being, 6, 7, 8 years old, and I would go around just spraying any place where I felt a little off. And there was, of course, I get yelled at for wet. Why is this wet?
Why is everything soaking wet? Well, that's funny you say it because I bought for my son. My son is the most empathic of the three of my 3 kids, and he felt not only, I would say at 4, 5, 6 years old, it was very intense. He was not only feeling everyone else's emotions, he was communicating with spirits on the other side constantly, and it was burdening him tremendously, and he would feel the unfortunate souls on the other side that were still struggling, or people who had not passed away yet, like the old man who owned our house before we moved in, who was stuck in a nursing home with dementia. I mean, he would hear him crying. He could tell me word for word what this man was thinking and feeling. Well, I had searched high and low and could not find a reasonable solution to help my I believe he was 5 at the time, to help my 5-year-old feel empowered as an empath. We went to a psychic fair one day and bought ghost spray. I think it was called Skeletons in the Closet, Ghosts Under the Bed, something. It was like an $8 teeny tiny little vial of expensive, probably water with a rock in it. And he was like, oh my God, this fixes the universe. And it did. And it did for like 4 years. Now, this kid who broke everything never lost that little glass vial.
Wow.
And we refilled it with water, and we refilled it. Whatever makes them feel safe, empowered, that they're in charge of who they are communicating with. Not only that, we live in a society where people are out of control with their emotions. It is enough. It is enough. We have to teach these children that they can recognize that they're having an emotion, but control their reaction to that emotion, control their mental state. They can do that even through a whole heck of a lot of emotions. So that's what we're doing, right?
And like you teach us in, I believe it's level 1, about literally feeling the difference between your energy and somebody else's energy. With kids, I think it would really help them to know this isn't my energy, this isn't how I'm feeling,
right?
And so forth. So I think even if you just get a bottle of water, you can even throw a clear quartz in it because that energizes
they
anything.
love it. That's what he had.
And it's waterproof. Yeah. Quartz can go in water. I know that for sure. So
and amethyst, I think.
Amethyst.
I think he had a chunk of amethyst in there.
Chuck that in a bottle, throw it. Glass is preferable, but with kids, plastic is okay. But stick that in the moonlight once a month and recharge that. And this kid, you're going to create moon water. You're creating crystal water. You're having your ghost spray. But I think that's what the biggest issue is for kids, is that sometimes they don't know it's not their energy that they're observing. And these kids do get diagnosed with things like ADHD and so forth, just based on the whole energy factor alone, the empathic factor.
I love that you're bringing that part up. And we do have a lecture coming up. It's up on the Ivy League Psychic Academy website and up on my Ivy Rivera Psychic Medium site, but I think. But it's called Empathic Means. I know it's up on the school site. Empathic Means is a lecture for educators, adults, children too. I've had kids as young as 6 or 8 come in there and sit for the lecture. You learn the tools to deal with empathic ability, and the root of everything with this is what is mine and what is others.
Absolutely.
So we have to look at it not as good or bad, light and dark, positive and negative. It needs to be about energy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so interesting. We have fire trucks going on out here. We had technical issues tonight. We just have everything under the building.
There's a fire station right next door. So.
Christmas tree going up in flames. It's a Lampoon's holiday show for you guys. We're in the house. Griswolds are in. All right, so let's kind of move on here too. I think at this point we're at about 5 years old. We're talking about developing more with the right side of the brain, which is the intuitive side of the brain, as well as the artistic. A lot of people don't know that when they tap into mediumistic abilities, psychic abilities, they're also tapping into artistic abilities. You might be able to all of a sudden pick up a piano, a guitar, paint a canvas. I mean, you're Van Gogh all of a sudden. Yeah. It's a phenomenon. It's all the same amazing area. Mm-hmm. And if it was the other way around, you started painting, your child got very into music lessons, right? All these parents put their kids in music lessons. They don't know they're creating little psychics. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what's going to happen. So you need to support your child in everything, okay? Not
sure.
just the artistic
the creative
stuff.
Outlets definitely support and help with the psychic portion of it, the mediumistic part of it. I mean, a lot of people will call me not a Jack, but a Jackie of all trades because I paint, I draw, I make tarot bags.
Do it all. I'm like, we need tarot bags. Straight. I need rings. Straight. I need dream catchers. Like, just whatever.
I do like, too much, but yeah, I'm there. But
I've seen a lot of students come in too, and they took like level 1 psychic mediumship development, had never picked up a paintbrush in their life, and walk out of there and start painting these phenomenal canvases, and we're selling their artwork. I'm like, how did this happen? So it's really quite an eye-opener. So parents really need to not just support their kids in what is mainstream, but also understand that they're feeding this. And it's good, and it's healthy, and you can't
absolutely
complement one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
So we have so far looked from 3 to about 5 to 6 years old.
Right.
We have another fire outside, multiple fires tonight. Now there is, I will say this, sort of a latency period. Mm-hmm. At about 5 to 6 years old, you could see that the child is either going to sort of continue on the way they were for a while. It could almost seem to go away. It depends on what the environment, is doing. You're probably not going to see any really drastic increases unless a couple key things happen. And this is my story. This is what happened to me, but I'm not going to get into all that at the moment. I'm just going to say these are the reasons for increases with anyone's ability. So when we go through an enlightenment or we move up to the next level with our intuition, it is often triggered by a near-death experience, death of a loved one, including a dog, a cat, a pet, having an enlightenment like maybe an attunement to Reiki, going in for your reverendship, attunement, maybe going in, believe it or not, going to a class, okay, like the classes that we have here, or classes that a lot of other people, reading a book that really opened you up. I've even had people go in for a massage or something where they didn't think anything major was going to happen, and they went into such a deep, meditative state they hadn't gone to before, okay? That can happen. Also, if you go under for surgery, even if you just had a tooth removed, something like this, once you go under, you're opening yourself up. How about drug use?
I was just going to drug and alcohol. But, it's kind of interesting because I had this conversation, again, not too long ago, where somebody wanted to know, why is it that when I am having a good time with friends and I drink a little too much, why do things happen? And they spend a lot of time trying to block it, trying to get rid of it. Well, here's the thing, and this happens with kids, and I believe this is what, like we talked about last week, along with elderly as well, when they get to a certain point.
Yeah.
Your brain is allowed to relax. Your mind is allowed to relax, and you're allowed to be free, be a free thinker at that point. And because of that, you are allowing any information that needs to come through to come through. Mm-hmm. So if you, let's say you saw, images you didn't like seeing, whether it was positive or negative.
Right.
Let's say you're at a campfire with some friends and you're having a grand old time, and all of a sudden there's something else dancing along that fire.
It never happened to you, huh?
No.
And it was me.
That will sober you up really quick. But yes,
yeah.
Anything that you do to relax your mind, even sleeping pills, because it allows you to go to sleep, relax your brain, relax your mind to fall into a deeper state. Information's coming in.
Absolutely. So yeah, especially with that, and you do have to be careful. A lot of people can experiment with with drugs and alcohol, and they can, go out there and have a good time. And there's a turning point, and then it's like, don't come around here, anymore. Like it's done. The show's over,
Yeah.
and it goes bad. This is where you're running the risk of an attachment issue, of paranormal problems, of severe depression. We have to guard our minds, especially when we're in a state like that, because we have something called clairaudient ability. Clairaudience is the ability for spirits to come in and manipulate what we're thinking. Now, to us, it doesn't seem like anybody put it in there. It just seems like our thought. But let me tell you, if you were 3 years old, you would have heard that with your ears.
Absolutely, yes.
Not anymore. Now it's in your head, so you confuse it for your own thoughts. It's biblical that you are to guard your thoughts. So we do need to be careful, and we're super susceptible at times like that. But anytime we relax. So there's a lot coming in. So we have all these different reasons for increases. You could also have increased or heightened ability because you got pregnant, because you had a child, you went through childbirth. You could have gotten sick. There could be a trauma, like an accident, anything can increase your abilities. It's really not possible to come back.
No, your mind is never really what it was. So at this point is what I call learning the balance, creating the balance between what was and what you wanted to be, and new.
Yep. This
but,
is new.
But kids will go. Every week I'm dropping my notebook.
So
but kids go through this too. If parents are fighting, if there's a little bit of abuse happening or traumatic events, they have to move away from friends. Something that's simple. It's traumatic for them.
It is traumatic for them. Absolutely.
There it is.
So you have these increased abilities. And as you're going forward, you're having to learn how to handle those abilities. Otherwise, and this is what I don't want parents and teachers encouraging the kids, well, just forget about it. Just block it out. Well, if you're not comfortable with it, then just try to ignore it and it will go away. Don't feed the problem. I assure you in mediumship, that does not work. I tried for over 30. I've done everything. I have spoken to everyone under the sun. There is no way to shut this out. Energy only continues to increase, especially with this level of intuition. Spirit does not say, oh wow, they don't feel like working today. We're not gonna come around today. It doesn't. Never. That's not the system. So you need to block this.
No, you can't.
You can't. So it's not about blocking it. It's about managing it. You can have control over it, but blocking something is not control. And the idea that your intuitive child or your intuitive self will get less so if you ignore it is never, ever, ever going to happen. Now, as it increases, we see adult onset.
Yeah.
ADHD, fibromyalgia, OCD, bipolar disorder, the schizophrenia. All kinds of things will set in. And we need to be aware, too, of the major increases, which I want to get into next because that does actually affect us into adulthood. Do we have a question?
Yeah, this one's from Linda. So I used to see spirits as a child, always in the daytime. It was never a problem and I never felt afraid. I experienced anxiety at nighttime as a child and still do even to this day, and I can't figure out why. Could there be a connection?
Well, here's what I tell the students in level 1, and Linda, thank you for your question. One of the most common side effects of a spirit coming in to communicate is some physical reaction, including an anxiety attack. So a lot of mediums don't understand that the reason they have an anxiety disorder is because it's spirit. It's spirit coming in to say hello or deliver a message. And when that happens, you have a physical reaction to it that's normal and natural for you. It can go away or be less so if you channel what the spirit has to say and you spend some time with them, or you tell them to leave. You can regulate it. But if it is your body's natural reaction to a spirit coming in to communicate, you can't really get rid of that altogether. You just learn to tolerate it, like profuse sweating or sharp pains. What do you have, Tree, when spirits come in to talk to you?
Well, usually they would just come in. I mean, I've been through actually a bit of, I'd say, an increase over the last several months that now weird things are happening. So I guess I can talk about them now. But recently I am starting to get the anxiety, where before I would feel it. Like it would almost be like what we talk about, like with being empathic and you feel something pushing on your bubble. Right. Before it would just feel the bubble push and I'd be like, all right, what's up? What's going on? I would do what I call gut check. Does it feel positive? Does it feel negative? Now I do that, but recently it's been more like in my face, to where I don't have time to check whether or not I'm feeling good about this, because with the pressure that comes in my face, of course I'm going to start to have some anxiety, like what is this? So recently it has been more of an emotional thing. It comes through, and I wait, and I should actually say that the other day I started crying out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Why am I crying? This isn't my energy. Why? What is going on? Mm-hmm. So I asked one of my guides for assistance, and he turned on the radio. Nice. And a song that was on was perfect to the T. Oh, you don't say. And it was literally saying the song. I don't want to say the song because I feel like it's a personal thing now, but it basically is telling me to let it go, let things go.
It was frozen.
And don't and don't feed fear. Don't feed the fear. That's good. Because that actually, if you become afraid, I think that's where a lot of the anxiety starts to come from, at least for me. Right. And you're feeding that fear. And if there is something that's not so positive that is coming in, you're feeding that negative. So what's it going to do? It's going to stay around. It's going to play with you. Yep. But you don't feel the negativity because your energy, like you're not feeling that energy. Mm-hmm. So it's going to play in the saying that, oh, I'm a good guy, when it may not be.
And we have a bingo. Yeah. The number one worst thing that we can do is, no, that's it. I mean, that sums it up. The number one worst thing that we could do to these kids is to say, it's bad. Absolutely. It's bad, because then the fear element comes in and it starts to block. Now, the problem is that we as adults, so Linda, this is all an answer to the question, but, what we feel as adults, because we feel anxiety, we're told that this is bad. Yeah. Communicating with spirits must be bad. Feeding our psychic intuition, doing anything regarding this field must be bad. The Bible must be true. This is the devil's work, it's actually just
helping others for
common physical reaction, right? It is. Is profuse sweating.
Absolutely. People fear what they don't understand, and that's generally the main thing. I think with the Bible too, with churches, is they don't quite get what we're about. So instead of finding one and bringing them in and talking about it, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And the nasal, the draining, whether it's your eyes, the constant watering of the eyes. Oh my gosh, all of a sudden the eyes started to water, or there was a complete drainage.
Does that be Kundalini?
Of the sinuses. Sort of, but it's more of, that's a whole system, and this is more of a spontaneous, spirit came in and caused.
Gotcha.
This to happen. So, Linda, your reactions are completely normal, and, thank you for your question. What I would recommend is exactly what Tree said here, which is discernment. Mm-hmm. Discernment. Spirit comes in, you're having an anxiety attack, you're sweating, you think, the world is maybe falling apart, you're incredibly uncomfortable. Ask the spirit's energy, whether or not it's positive or negative. If you feel okay with it, understand it's just your own physical reaction. And ask what the message is. They will move on. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, you tell them to move on.
And don't get discouraged about it, because that is something I have been doing since I was a kid. Like I said, nobody talked about things with me, so I'm one of those, try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, move away from it. I was like my own test.
We had to save ourselves.
We did. So, don't become discouraged about it, or if you have anxiety while you're trying to do it, you still have that fear element in there. And it's really kind of easier said than done, but until people can really get rid of fear, it's going to kind of keep resurfacing around. And it'll catch you off guard, too.
And fear attracts fear. So as parents, as adults out there talking to gifted kids, don't feed the fear mongers. and those thoughts. But yeah, simple discernment. There are a lot of spirits out there that I just remember feeling were absolutely overwhelming and negative, and maybe just even terrifying. I mean, and I would take a moment to look at it and acknowledge it and say, what is this? And it really was nothing. And I was like, wow, it can look this bad and be nothing?
Yeah.
And my physical reactions, personally, are extremely anxiety-ridden.
Yeah.
Very clairsentient, feeling everything traumatically, flashes, trance states. None of this is comfortable.
No.
Am I in danger? No, because I use discernment. It's really not rocket science, right? You just use discernment.
I think it makes it even more difficult, too, when the energy that's coming in has something else behind it. So if you're actually feeling something coming from a person that you know, you can feel the pain. If you're that sensitive, you can feel the pain from a loved one a few states over and so forth. And until you actually check to see what's going on. I mean, I'm not saying call everybody in your phone book. You okay? All right, yeah, goodbye. Or whatever the case is.
Maybe play the psychic game. Find out. Narrow it down to your top 3. Right? See how good you really are.
If they know you're sensitive,
you're calling anyways. The minute something goes wrong with them, everybody knows you're going to be calling anyways.
So, but yeah, play a little detective work in it, try to figure it out. But it's the same thing with kids. If you allow them to be open about it, then they know that they should not have fear. And I'll tell you what, that's one thing that actually I was wanting to take level 1 a couple times.
The psychic mediumship development class,
And I didn't get in there until somebody actually said to me, if you keep continuing to have, why won't you come in? Well, because I'm afraid of the bad stuff. Well, if you get rid of the fear, that stuff. Then
there is no bad stuff. Like attracts like.
And it's 100% true. The moment I made up my mind to come into level 1 psychic development mediumship, as soon as I did that, do I hear from that negative stuff? Not at all.
Precisely. And that is the biggest problem in growing up in a Catholic atmosphere and with a lot of judgment and how bad. Like I said a second ago, it isn't rocket science. And what I mean, and the people I'm talking to with that, is that, it isn't rocket science to decipher between good and bad. You know within the first 7 seconds. So they say. I think it's more like 3 to 4 seconds, right? You know whether or not somebody is okay.
Right.
You can tell the first time they look into your face whether they're okay, or they can't look into your face whether they're okay. We know. We can energetically go up to 2 pencils, 2 rolls of toilet paper, 2 blouses in a store and say, this one is good energy, this one is bad energy. There's no logic to it. We intuitively know. And then you go, oh my God, it's my OCD. And it isn't. It's energy reading. Okay. So discernment is easy.
I did that with ice cream. There was one left and I wanted it and I go, not touching it. And I picked a different kind because I didn't want anything to do with it.
It's a new wave of the diet. We have another question coming in?
This one is from Linda. So how does depression and fibromyalgia, which I both have, come into play?
Oh, we love you, Linda. Depression and fibromyalgia, okay, a couple of the things that we were talking about here earlier. I believe, and of course we cannot prescribe or diagnose, and if you're having symptoms or solutions that your doctor is able to help you with, then by all means, the medical route may be working for you. If it is not, what I've seen are my students coming in here for level 1 psychic mediumship, and after probably about, I want to say maybe 7 to 8 weeks. It used to be a little bit longer than that, but we're packing in more. I want to say people who are coming in for the empathic means lecture, which is a 2-hour lecture. What they're learning is energy maintenance. So what we understand at the core of this, okay, so my method is called the Psychology of Spirit Communication Method, the PSC method. It's based on energy maintenance. Energy that comes in, let's say energy you're going to allow to come in, has got to go back out somehow. That's it. My students that learn how to block it when it's proper, allow it when it's okay, and how to send it back out, no longer have disorders.
Yeah, absolutely. The energy has to go somewhere other than staying inside you. And I think this also goes back to, again, as being children. if we're taught the proper way of how to understand something, how to deal with something, it doesn't keep building.
Like anything.
Like anything.
Absolutely.
So some of these situations, like, depression especially, but like fibromyalgia, it could stay contained inside for so long until it erupts, till it comes out in some manner.
As a physical reaction.
As a physical, exactly.
Too much energy coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Too much energy absorption. As an empath, empaths are automatically psychic. Empaths are automatically mediums. They're automatically healers. Empaths have all three. Mm-hmm. And you can't say the same thing for mediums. You can't say the same things for a psychic, but you can for an empath. And if you have empathic ability, you have to learn to maintain it and put it back out. So, Linda, we love you and thank you again. But yeah, that is mostly what you see with that in adulthood is depression, including bipolar disorder, fibromyalgia, and the adult onset ADHD. Mm-hmm. So common stuff, but easily resolved. Yeah. After the empathic means lecture, people took the tools and went back out and said they never had the problem again. So, doctors, therapists, I've never had a doctor or therapist really honestly disagree with me. They just say, we can't say what you say in here. We can't go out there and say what you're saying in here. But they agree. Energy that goes in must go back out. Period.
Absolutely.
You can't eat 5 Big Macs.
No.
And not gain a pound.
I couldn't anyway. But
I probably could. I probably could. But to not gain a pound, it's never going to happen. To not need to go to the bathroom. Everything has to come back out somehow. So we want to wrap up the show with these things. Okay. These are the major years throughout the lifespan when you should be looking at increases with your ability. We're talking 3 years old, right? With the brain waves. We're talking 5 to 6 years old, where they are developing more on the right side of their brain and hearing it in their head. Then we have another big increase between 14 and 16 years old, which is the big one. The big one.
Yeah.
A lot of teenagers, I don't believe it's all hormonal. A lot of suicidal tendencies, a lot of depression, a lot of alienation. Their personality can completely change from that increase. And a lot of that has to do with lack of support for their abilities and their gifts in this.
Yeah, I went through that one about that age. It was for me, it was more like 15, and then it really wasn't over until I was about 18, 19 is when the depression stopped. And it was hard. I had my moments where I didn't want to be around, but then I'd cry about that because I loved everybody.
Right.
So it's rough. It is rough.
And that was my peak. I was constantly seeing things, constantly hearing things. A medium from Lilydale found me when I was 15 in a grocery store and said, you need to start doing this. Do you want to train? And I sat in a chair and I read someone for the first time for 45 minutes with no training, no comprehension how that happened. And then from there, I opened up Pandora's box. So negative came in, positive came in. Unfortunately, I didn't learn a ton about discernment, and you had to train yourself. It's out of control.
No, I'm laughing because I'm actually thinking with my sister's listening, which she's going to laugh too. But I think that's about the age I started telling people what color their underwear was.
Oh, isn't that?
Yeah, it was a nice little trick I developed, which I haven't done in years.
Let's start doing this. This one will have a line. Everyone else will be giving readings. You'll just be guessing, like underwear. Wait.
Be talking to a friend, and all of a sudden I'm like, is he wearing blue boxers?
Guess the future husband. Guess the future mate. That's what you make a fortune.
Empathic energy is no joke, folks.
No, it isn't. You need to know this. You need to know what color your underwear are. You must know this. So then we have sort of, again, a little bit of a latency period. I believe, and there are no studies done on this yet, and I've never read anything on it, but I will stick to this to the grave. I believe that everybody increases every 5 to 6 years. So if you never had a baby, if no one around you ever passed, if you never became a reverend or had an enlightenment or attunement, you're still going to increase. And it's never, ever, remember, going in reverse. So every 5 to 6 years you increase. Now, the next huge peak is in the late 40s to early 50s. And this is when most people start rushing toward their development, toward their spiritual training, toward anything they can get their hands on to start letting this energy out.
Yeah.
Because at that point, they start to see things like the depression, the fibromyalgia, the insomnia. They start to feel like they're literally going crazy, like their brain is just firing off all this information. They're super sensitive. They're picking up on other people's thoughts and emotions, and even telepathy can kick in. So that's the other big. If you are in your late 40s, early 50s, and you're understanding some of the things I'm saying, guess what? So is your 14 to 16-year-old. You guys are exactly in alignment. Even the physical, mental, emotional disorders that are going to emerge are identical. In between there, not a whole heck of a lot going on. It's just sort of slow increases that are fairly manageable.
Definitely not.
As long as environmental issues don't aggravate it.
Right.
So, you want to get a handle on it at any age. You want to embrace it. And most importantly, we want to understand this is to heal the world.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be blocking out energy. You're not supposed to allow it all the time either. You're supposed to maintain it and manage it. So we want to find a healthy balance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, help finding that, and with kids understanding what they're going through. Don't just chalk it up as they're being a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old or one of those things. Actually sit and ask them what is going on. Take the time. It seems like America, like our world is so much more busier these days where we don't have time for ourselves. And I'm not saying people are neglecting their kids, but what I am saying is make that extra time and actually sit and ask them, okay, why are you crying about that, or why does this bother you so much, or why are you having a crazy fit over a pencil hitting the floor? I've seen that happen. So yeah, I think it just comes down to it's all energy. It's like really getting a handle on that energy to start putting it in the right place. I mean, now I'm seeing they're talking about putting meditation in schools. Oh my God, that would help kids immensely. It's not just running around to get it out of their system.
It also opens them up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It also opens them up. So guess what? Maintenance. But they're learning discernment. They're in a safe environment. Again, you don't know. You're opening them up. They're kind of going home. They need to manage it. I think we always have like one side and not the other.
Right.
Being it's up to us as adults. Take care of these kids. We will have another kids psychic fair coming up here soon. I want to book one soon where the kids can come in. It's like a 3-hour day. They learn to make their own tarot decks and do Reiki on animals and animal communication, all kinds of great stuff here at the Ivy League Psychic Academy. A couple of the classes that are coming up, level 1 psychic mediumship development starts Tuesday, January 10th. You do need to get enrolled for that. Empathic means is January 17th. We have level 2 to get certified as a psychic medium for graduates of level 1. We have a relationships class focused on love, soulmate connection, cord cutting, if it's something you need to get rid of, a lot of miscommunication, misunderstandings in relationships, dreams, Reiki training, meet your guides, hauntings, clearings, and attachments, and coffee with your angels, among other things. We're also going to be Margin Manor doing a psychic fair. With you girls and a bunch of other stuff coming up. So you guys, if you want to book a reading with me, I do have a sale running until January 1st. You can find that information at ivyrivera.psychicmedium.com, or you can find me on Facebook. And where can they find you?
On Facebook under Theresa Matuszcak Psychic Medium.
Okay, thanks so much, guys. We look forward to talking with you again in about 2 weeks. I think we're going to be on
January something.
January something. So you guys can follow on the Facebook page if you want to do that. It's called Academy Talk Radio Ask a Medium. And we're always posting updates on when the next show will be. But we stick to Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, pretty much every other week, something like that. Okay, so please.
First weekend and Sunday because Christmas.
That'll be good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Happy holidays, guys.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Take care of each other.
Fall here, everyone's favorite season. Tim Hortons French Vanilla Cappuccinos have arrived, and I couldn't be more excited. 3 delicious flavors, classic, chai, and pumpkin spice to keep you cozy all season long. With French Vanilla at Tim Hortons, I'm downright blissful. Rich, creamy, and delicious. I'm back, and better than ever with Tim Hortons Signature French Vanilla Cappuccinos. Coming today being fall, and try one at participating U.S. restaurants for a limited time.
Danny, I just figured out that if I switch to Metro PCS, I get 2 Samsung Galaxy phones free.
Cool, Dad.
And I could be a super dad with 2 free Samsung Galaxy phones and call myself Double Galaxy Man.
Or you could give the second phone to your sidekick.
Yeah, I guess I could do that.
That's right. 2 free Samsung Galaxy On5 smartphones are all yours when you switch to Metro PCS. Metro PCS. Wireless figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.